Let me greet you again then. How are you, Mpumi?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm not doing bad myself, not doing bad myself. I think before we start the interview, let me just express gratitude um, for actually taking your time and, you know, feeling that whatever you have to say to us today is going to contribute value into students' life and make them or help them make better decisions in the future.
I mean, did I have a choice? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, it is a pleasure. I'm from the school of the hard knocks myself, and so it's always a pleasure to give back to a place that once fed me or once fed into the person that I am today. So it's only a pleasure. I hope that I can answer your questions well and people can actually gain from our session.
All right, all right, all right. Thank you. So, no, I know you. I know who you are. Actually, the first time I heard about you or had heard anything of you was by coincidence, by chance. I was in my mother's
Okay.
room and the radio was playing Ukozi as usual in their room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you were there with this interview, and I wasn't actually paying attention until you said something about the School of Mining, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
And
that's
then,
my person.
yeah, that's my person. And then from there, like had to figure out who's this person. Found you on Instagram, found you on LinkedIn, and then here we are today. So I'm not going to
Yay.
introduce you. I'll allow you to introduce yourself to the people.
Okay. So I don't know what part of my story you want me to share, but yes, you are right. I was actually at Wits between the years 2013 and 2016. I had my qualifications done there, and I did it in record time. Yay! Thank God. Anybody who's ever been to the Wits School of Mining knows that it's a mess.
Of
So I was
course.
glad to finish it within those 4 years. And
Yeah.
then after finishing my studies, actually, I went to work at a technical consulting firm, and I did not love it at all. I didn't like anything about it, not the work, not the environment. I really, really didn't like it. But okay, so maybe let me say the reason why I went to a technical consulting firm instead of going via the production route of going underground is because I never wanted to go underground. I told myself that yes, I'm in mining, but I won't go the traditional route. I won't go for blasting ticket or whatever those things are. I'll just do consulting. I didn't have technical consulting in mind, but technical consulting is the only thing that was available to me. And maybe let me differentiate between the consulting we know, which is management consulting, and technical consulting. So management consulting happens with your McKinsey, with your Bain and Co, with your BCG. It is for every industry. Whereas technical consulting firm is really where I think they have a subset of what the planning division of any mine would do. So we used to design the mine, design the dumps. We were consultants to mining houses, surface mining houses that didn't want to have their own planning division set up. So that's the work I did. I absolutely hated it. But also, it wasn't when I started working that I realized that maybe mining isn't for me. I always had this feeling, would see, I'm called for something more than this. It's not mining, because I just didn't see how the change I wanted to create in the world was going to be effective or affected as I was doing mining. And so I left the mining industry altogether. I joined the banking industry, and it's through working in the banking industry that a lot of myself got exposed to me, and a lot of the troubles that young professionals experience in corporate and outside of corporate became prevalent and revealed to me, that I then started working on something else. And that something else is the reason why you heard me on Kozi FM, because they were talking to me about Purpose Practitioners Club, which is my training and development firm that I work in. I'm employed in the firm, and I work as a purpose alignment strategist, helping young professionals who feel stuck in careers they settled for and jobs they quite frankly hate to discover what their purpose is, and with that purpose establish a profession that will be fulfilling, impactful, and sustainable. So I'm still employed in corporate, not for too long, but I think what attracted you to me with the idea of the fact that I actually went to the Wits School of Mining is that I've switched careers so many times, and now I am working in my purpose and working with young professionals in the best capacity I know how.
Thank you. Thank you for that brief introduction of yourself. I think my first question in mind now would be, when exactly did you know that you really don't like mining? I mean, you decided to go study mining, and then when did you actually say, no, man, actually, this is not for me? Yeah.
Yeah. So when I knew that mining was not for me is obviously when I started mining. And always know, firstly, I never thought I'd ever be an engineer. Like if somebody would come to me and say, hey, maybe if I was a teen, you're going to be an engineer, I would laugh their face off because I never thought I'd be an engineer. But the perception of society around me said, you're brilliant, you're smart, you're good at maths, you're good in science. Engineering is the route you should take. And so that's what I did. But in first year already, I'm sure you know when I mentioned things like physics 1014,
1014.
physics 1015, chemistry, algebra, calculus, I was like, what on earth is going on here? Oh my goodness, those things were hard for me.
Yeah.
I remember in first year, I called my sister to say, hey, I want out. It is difficult. I am struggling. I want out of this. Maybe let me go do law or something that will actually help people. My sister said, no, stick with it, see how it goes. And I won't lie, in second year, it got better. I don't know what it is about second year. I think it's because we have a lot less subjects.
Yeah.
And the work,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
you just get
yeah.
you just get used to the struggle anyway. You're just like, I'm gonna be strong, I'm gonna do it. And so second year got easier. But I must tell you, when we were in second year, this was 2014, there was a China meltdown. So what China was doing, it was building all the years prior to 2014. And in 2014, they stopped building, they were done. And so there wasn't any need for our minerals, particularly platinum. So the mining industry was going down. People that had graduated the previous year weren't getting employed because mining houses were not employing anybody. So we were scared. We're like, we're only in second year. What are we gonna do with our careers? And so I literally in that moment felt like everything is my fault. I don't know if you're a Christian or not, but there's a story of Jonah in the Bible. And Jonah was sent to one part of the country and he decided to go to another part. And because of his rebellion, the ship that he was in started sinking. And I'm just like, everything's falling apart because I'm in the wrong place. It's all my fault. But obviously, I'm not as powerful as China. But here's the thing, it's because I knew that I was in the wrong place. So all throughout varsity, I knew that, oh my goodness, this is not for me. And I guess choosing to go the consulting routes was just consolation for me because I had realized that underground is not where I'm going. I'm not even going on surface. So maybe the best thing to do is to get in consulting, at least be strategic and meet with clients and speak and things like that. So I've always known.
Yeah. I get you. Now, you did a mining engineering degree. I would assume that some of the skills and some of the content you gained from that degree, you're still using it or it's still in principle in you. So I just like for you to tell us what are the principles or content, I would say, what are the things that you learned from your mining degree that you still put to use even today, even when you're in corporate?
Yeah. Okay. So I think we just need to appreciate the fact that because mining is a qualification that actually engages or deals with real life stuff, and I'm pretty sure it's with all qualifications, I have a better understanding of the world of minerals and the world of mining as a whole. So I am not altogether confused whenever mining topics are brought up, whenever I see the TV reports on the price of gold or the price of platinum, so things like that, I'm still very much aware of the mining world and things pertaining to mining. So that's the one positive. I won't lie to you and say, oh, I remember that thing in geology, yeah, the type of rocks, oh, I have how to calculate whatever in transport. No, I don't remember all those things. It's just the general mining concepts that I remember. But here's the thing. So I currently work in a bank.
Mm-hmm.
And working in a bank then means that I tap into financial valuation pretty much often.
Right.
And although I'm not in project finance where I would need to use that a lot of the times, but I can very well piggyback off of any conversation that is going on in the bank around valuing mines and things of that nature. Here's what I want us to really, really, really appreciate about having a degree of any kind, especially engineering. You often hear that engineers are out of the box thinkers. It's true. All these other industries like your banks, your consulting firms, and your accounting firms, all of these industries bring us in because we have a different way of looking at problems. And I can attribute this to the likes of your physics 1014 and 1015 because they really stretch our brain and forces us to see literally different angles to a problem. So while you're calculating the gradients and angle of what, you actually don't realize that it's developing the acumen and the skill in you to see problems from multiple angles. We also do technical drawing, and I don't want you to feel like, oh, Mpumi, you're reaching, but honestly, we see things in 3D, right? We draw front, top, whatever. Literally, that's how engineers look at problems. We look at problems in 3D. So all these industries appreciate our way and our approach of solving these problems. But also because of the subjects that we did at school, we think critically. I mean, I don't know if you guys had critical thinking in first year, but that's what we had.
Yeah.
Critical thinking. As well as that, we have INR. We had INR in my time. I think it's still continuing. But that teaches you the skill of researching, putting reports together, being analytical and critical. I still use those things as I continue in corporates, even in my own business. I really research a lot. I put together reports, but I'm also able to just really critically think about matters and analyze. And what happens is a lot of engineers that leave school are employed in these other firms as analysts. So all really the acumen that you gain from having a degree and from undergoing a 4-year process of an engineering degree comes in very handy when you have to tackle issues in any industry. The way we think, the way we reason, the way we apply what we know, that is what puts us in good stead. And so I don't use a lot of the content or the technical knowledge that I learned in engineering or in mining, but trust me that they've really developed a skill in me that I could not trade for anything in the world.
Right. So to actually summarize what you've just said, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not really the content, the actual content of what it's being taught that makes us who we are. It's how to think. It's how to think.
100%. 100%. And just remember, just think of the life cycle of, or maybe a year's cycle in school. We are given material, we go to class, so we have to study, we have to read. And then what happens in the end? We have to write exams or tests. Basically, they want to see how we apply everything that we were taught. And essentially, that's the purpose of a degree. It arms you with knowledge, it arms you with skill, and at the end they say, let's see how you apply what you have learned. So if we can go out of school knowing how to apply what we know, or in what cases to apply the things we know, we are good to go. I'll give you a very simple example. So in I don't even know if it's algebra or calculus, but we do, is it called matrix or graph, whatever, matrix. Yes. So what happens is that you know that there is a x-axis and a y-axis and a point of intersection or whatever. So I found that in relaying some of the coaching principles that I do in my own business, I use those principles. So I know that the coming together of something in X and what something in Y should give us this type of product. So it's not a mathematical equation, but I use the mathematical principle to bring across a message. And so if we really just apply ourselves in learning the principles, and that's why even with maths, we could be asking, oh my goodness, why are they making us do all of this in first principle? It's because when you know the principle, you can apply it anyway. And so we get tired of, oh, but in the mines there are machines. Why don't they just give us access to the machines to calculate these things? No, it's because when you know how to calculate something from first principles, when you know how it is obtained, you can apply yourself in any field, in any space possible.
Right, right. No, thank you. Thank you so much for that. You clarified a lot of things. Some of them were just ideas in my head that I hadn't actually coined. But in how you've put it, honestly, I think I'm covered in that question. Another question would be, in the conventional mining career route, especially in the production route, I would say people have painted that picture. They've told us that what's needed from us to make it, what's needed from us to succeed in that route would be work ethic, talent, and somewhat soft skills, right? So now I just wanted to understand from you, from your point of view now in the corporate world, as an engineering graduate, as a product of engineering teaching, what are the skills? What is it that is needed for you to progress in that sort of career?
Yeah, and I think the things you mentioned, your talents, your skill, and your work ethic and soft skills, those are things that are applicable across the board. So literally every industry would require you to have those things. It would be a given. They don't even expect that you would ask what is required. But here's one thing that I want people to know. So the truth is, if you're going to be an engineer getting into any space, you probably know much less about that space than the people who studied in accordance to that space. For example, me in a bank, there are people who did finances, who did accounting, people who did stats in school, and people who did economics. And I didn't do those things extensively. I think the closest thing to finance or accounting was financial valuation. And the closest thing to stats was technical valuation. So those are really a tip of the iceberg when it comes to anything that is done in the banks. So what I would say is, then the onus is on you to really immerse yourself in the knowledge and the understanding of what that industry requires. And maybe let me just talk about it like this, right? I don't want people to think that the mining engineering degree like forces them to then go into mining. There's a spectrum of industries that we can get into. I want you to think about the value chain of mining, literally from cradle to grave. What are the different steps and processes in this mining, in this entire mining project? So from the very beginning, when there's nothing, people have to go survey the land. It means there are surveyors that are required. And then there are geologists that are required. And then once the land has been gotten, we know that there are machines, there are explosives, there's just ventilation, all those things. I want people to think about the value chain and the life cycle of a mine. And then what happens once you have figured out that this is the land that you want and you want to build a mine? You go to a bank. So that's how people like me then feature. You go into the bank for the project finance of that mine. What happens after that? There's management consulting. So think about every stage and every step of the mining life cycle, of the mining value chain, and then decide in which stage would you like to feature, or in which stage do you think you would add value best and be fulfilled in, so that you can actually apply yourself anywhere you can. But as it relates to corporates, now people are in corporates, they've got this engineering degree. I would say immerse yourself in the knowledge base that is required for that particular industry. Secondly, I want to tell you that nobody is coming. Nobody is coming. If you step into corporates and you're like, they need to have a plan, This is a graduate program. This is an internship. Why isn't anyone coming to me with a plan? There is no plan. When you get into corporate, you realize that you are on your own. If you aren't intentional about where you want to go, how far you want to go, how you want to get there, you're going to slowly, slowly, slowly die, because nobody's going to look after your career. It's all in your hands. So I would say that once you get into corporate, don't look for a plan, create your own plan, because nobody is coming. Also, when you step into corporate, the biggest temptation is to fit into the culture. And it's something that they sell to us when they interview us. They're like, oh, so how do you think you will be a culture fit? They don't want a culture fit. Because if they wanted a culture fit, they would continue with the people that are already in the bank or people that look like them. They are hiring us because we look different to them. And so I would say, don't try fitting into the culture. Be a culture ad. Because when you fit into the culture, you will slowly fade into the background. And you don't want to fade into the background. You want to be known for something. You want to be known for your uniqueness. So be a culture ad instead of being a culture fit. And then also, how you're going to make it in corporate is that you will have to network yourself into every role you want. Literally, the best capital you have in corporate is social capital. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And then the what you know will follow the who, because you need somebody who's going to be a sponsor, who will speak about you when you're not in the room, somebody who will mentor you to make sure that you get into the right rooms. So network yourself around corporate if you want to climb that corporate ladder. But more than anything, I think I would be amiss, or it would be remiss of me to say, or to not say, whatever career you get into, make sure that that career is in line with your purpose. Because if it is not in line with your purpose, you are going to hate it. You are going to be meaningless. And although it may sustain you, as in give you money to pay your bills at the end of the month, you'll even resent the sustenance because it is not fueling what is important to you. So those are the gems that I would drop for anybody who's trying to get into corporate as a mining engineer.
All right. No, thank you. Thank you so much. You mentioned the know your purpose and do something that's within your purpose. Now, that is really difficult if you really don't know how to go about finding whatever it is that is your purpose.
Yeah.
So can you briefly just suggest to students on how it is that you identify your purpose?
Yeah, and it is a lot. I would overwhelm you if I start talking about it in any shape or form. What I can let you know is that before the month ends, before August ends, I'll be hosting a webinar actually, and that webinar will be unpacking literally how, because a lot of the people I come across say, Mpumi, but purpose doesn't pay the bills. So literally, the webinar will be talking about how to have a purpose that pays your bills. But also it will really unpack the stages or the steps to get that purpose. But what I can say for the sake of this conversation is 3 things. Firstly, be clear on what problem you are called to solve. There are things that tug at your heartstrings that some people don't care about. What are identified that you believe need solving? Secondly, what gifts do you have that can be enablers to you actually meeting the needs that you've seen and identified? And what abilities can you tap into to solve those needs? So get very, very clear on what it is you need to do, or what your message and your mission is, who you need to do it for, and then we can talk later about then what is the channel or what is the avenue through which you can solve that need. And if you find that mining is that avenue, then go right ahead and do mining. But really get clear on what the need is, who the need is for, and how you are going to be able to solve it. That is very, very like tip of the iceberg. And I would encourage any and everyone who's listening to this to follow me closely so that they can have access to that webinar. But if you can really follow the 3 things that I've said, you should be well on your way.
All right, all right. Thank you so much. I think that sheds somewhat some light onto this question. I think
Yeah.
my last question now would be, I think in the mining industry, we have some sort of an idea of the challenges faced by women. Now, my question to you would be, in the corporate space, what are the
Yeah.
challenges faced by women, and can you just
Oh my goodness.
advise us on how to overcome these challenges?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this question just really bothers me. It really, really bothers me because here's the truth. The men who are in corporates are the men who are in mining. The men who are in mining are the men who are in our communities. The men who are in our communities are the men that are in our houses. So and I don't even want to brand men, but I want to say that we are dealing with people who have a similar mindset. It's not because, oh, these are miners, this is how they think. These are bankers, this is how they think. At times, it's just generations. We're dealing with a generation of men or a generation of people who have similar mindsets. So you will find that the treatment that women have in mining is similar to the treatment that people have in corporates. But what I have to say is women aren't listened to, and it sucks. It really sucks that women aren't being listened to because women have got voices too. We've got ideas, we've got things to contribute to this world. In fact, I've heard stats, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but really, any corporates who would really include women in their corporate affairs can do twice as better, or if not 3 times as better, as what they're currently doing. So, how I, as an individual, are able to break through those boundaries and break through those ceilings is by standing up for myself. And I wish this is something I knew just as I was starting out in corporate, to speak my mind. And the sad thing is that when you have an opinion in corporate, you're sometimes silenced. But I would encourage any woman who is listening to this to not settle with whatever thing is brought to you that you are not happy with. Speak your mind. If you are being excluded from an opportunity you know you can contribute positively to, let them know that you see that they're overlooking you and you can contribute. Another thing that I have to add is value begets value. So instead of asking for an opportunity to be at the table or to be a part of the conversation, deliver value so that they cannot say they didn't see that you've got something to add. So if you already from the forefront say, these are my thoughts on A, B, and C. So what do you think? What do you think would be the next step to me being a part of this project? They can't say, oh no, but you said nothing. Value cannot be missed. And so lead with value instead of leading with requests, but speak your mind. Because if you keep quiet, as I said initially, nobody's coming. Nobody's going to say, oh, Mpumi, there in the corner, you have something to say. No one's going to call out for you. You have to speak your mind. And whatever injustice is being presented, challenge the injustice. Challenge the perpetrators of the injustice. Don't keep quiet. Be the ambassador. Be the category of one that will fight for whatever it is that is going on that you are not pleased with. But if we don't fight, because that's what it is. If we talk, we don't get listened to. We get silenced. And the sad reality now is that we even get killed. Fight, shout, kick, scream, fight the injustice.
No, thank you so much, Mpumi. That's a very powerful message, and I'm sure that the female students, even the male students, are going to appreciate it. They are going to appreciate it.
Yes, and I hope you guys need to do better.
Yeah,
You guys need to do better. We can't be fighting your grandfathers and your fathers and then fighting you too. Do
yeah,
better, please.
yeah. That is definitely on our agenda to do
Yeah,
better,
love
to
it.
do better, to do
Love
better. No, I mean, I think I've exhausted all my questions now.
it.
I just like again to say thank you very much. Thank you very much. This has been a very great conversation and has greatly contributed value towards our agenda. Yeah, thank you so much, Mpumi.
Thank you so much for having me, and all the best, guys. I know that a lot of things are changing in the School of Mining, but I believe that they're changing for the better. So all the best, give it your all, and be creative. Like really, don't come out and suggest the things that are already being suggested. They're not working. Come out, be innovative. The world is hungry for innovators, but the world in its totality is hungry for engineers. So put your hand up, put your feelers out there, and really guys, let mining engineers take over all these industries. Let's be the boss of all these industries. But anyway, all the best. All the best, and give it your best. The world is waiting for you, and I know that you will give the world your best.
All right, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. Bye.
Alrighty, alrighty.
Sharp.